The Dallas Cowboys are one of the best teams in the NFL, and people don't like to hear that. The Dallas Cowboys sit at 8-3 and just absolutely obliterated the Sam Howell-led Washington Commanders. And while destroying the Washington Commanders is nothing new for the Dallas Cowboys, nor is it anything new to the NFL, I think the Dallas Cowboys have taken that next step. Now, before I get a ton of dislikes and a bunch of people tell me that I know nothing about the NFL, hear me out, let's talk about it. Because even if you are the most outlandish Dallas Cowboys fan, you cannot deny the statistic. Offensively, they rank number 1 in points per game, number 4 in yards per game, number 2 in points per play, number 2 in touchdowns per game, and number 3 on third down conversion rate. And defensively, they're pretty good too. They rank number 4 in opponents' points per game, they rank number 3 in opponents' yards per game, they rank number 8 in opponents' touchdowns per game, and on third down, they give up the 3rd lowest percentage. So this is a team that plays offense and defense, but ultimately, can they take that next step? That's always been the question for Dallas. It seems like they can dominate the bad teams, but when they go up against the good teams, they struggle. And yes, I won't defend them against San Francisco. They got obliterated. But it feels like ever since that San Francisco game, this offense has turned an absolute corner. Because after they lost that game, they had a 20-17 game against the LA Chargers in a game where it felt like Dallas was figuring things out. Then they destroyed the LA Rams with a score of 43-20. They had a very close competitive game against the Eagles, which they lost 28-23, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail here in a second, because that's kind of the game that gives me the most hope about this Cowboys team. And then in the last 3 weeks, 49-17 to the Giants, 33-10 to the Panthers, and 45-10 to the Commanders. Now, all those blowouts, great, they're amazing, they're fun to watch, but ultimately they're going up against bad teams. Now, I'm always a bit on the boat of saying when you blow out NFL teams, that's always impressive because every NFL team has NFL talent. But the game I want to really focus in on is that Philadelphia Eagles game, because despite the loss, I actually feel like the Dallas Cowboys should have won that game. I understand, if this was the playoffs, they would be out of the playoffs and we wouldn't be talking about this. But thankfully for them, championships are not won in November. Because in that game against a very good defense, Dak Prescott was 29 of 44 for 374 yards, 3 touchdowns, and more importantly, 0 interceptions. And everyone at the time was saying that Dak Prescott was a product of CeeDee Lamb, and while that definitely could be the case that they are kind of a product of each other, the last 2 weeks, CeeDee Lamb has not been the focal point of the offense, yet the offense has been thriving. Offensively, they're finally getting some contributions from guys like Tony Pollard, Brandon Cooks, Jake Ferguson. Those are guys who, coming into the season, had to take the next step to help this team get to that championship level. And well, up to that 49ers game, they really weren't doing that. And truth be told, CeeDee Lamb wasn't really playing that great until after that 49ers game. Like I said, it's like after that Niners game, the Cowboys offense realized what they had to do. Because nowadays, this offense not only feeds its stars, but Dak Prescott is making hard NFL MVP throws. And again, I know for some reason there is this hatred for Dak Prescott just because he's the quarterback of one of the more annoying fan bases. But speaking from an unbiased standpoint, I've always really admired Dak Prescott in his game because sure, last year he threw a bunch of interceptions, he was still playing some good football that year. And this year, he's been one of the best quarterbacks in the entire NFL. And I'm here to say this, I think he might be the front runner for the MVP right now. And this comes just, I want to say, a week and a half since I made a recent upload about who I thought was the MVP, in which I said Lamar Jackson. And I'm not going to sit here and praise Dak Prescott and say that he is the MVP currently. I'm just saying he's playing at that level right now. At this current point, Dak Prescott is playing better than almost every quarterback in the NFL, not named maybe CJ Stroud or Tua, but even then, I think he's at that level, if not higher. And again, 100% accurate. He's played a lot of bad teams lately, but he can't control that. That's the games that they were scheduled. But against the Eagles, against a really good defense, Dak Prescott was phenomenal. And fortunately for Dak Prescott and this Cowboys team, they have some really tough tests coming up. Next week, they take on the Seattle Seahawks, which they should easily win because after that Seahawks performance, I'm a little bit worried about that current team. And they have matchup with teams like the Eagles, the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, the Detroit Lions, so on and so forth. There's a lot of really talented teams still to come. And while I don't expect Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys to win all of those games, if they can win over 50% of those tough matchups, I think that's pretty impressive. Now, granted, if they go out there and win all those games and Dak Prescott plays phenomenal, then damn, give him the MVP trophy today. But at the end of the day, that's kind of an unrealistic expectation, so I kind of want to see how those teams play against the Dallas Cowboys, because when the Cowboys have faced good teams outside of San Francisco, they've handled their business. Now, if you look at the rest of the season for the Dallas Cowboys and kind of looking at that playoff picture, it seems very unlikely that they're going to be able to win the NFC East. Currently, the Philadelphia Eagles, barring an absolute collapse at the end of the season, they look like they're probably going to end up winning 13 to 14 games this year. And unless Dallas wins out and Philadelphia drops a couple games, I don't see Dallas finishing off with the NFC East title, which, by the way, is going to be a massive deal for the Dallas Cowboys because they play 10 times better at home than they do away. But right now, the path for them to become a home field advantage team is just very unlikely. But then again, with the way the playoffs are shaping up, if they are the 5th seed, they're probably going to go up against the 4th seed, which is going to be a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Buccaneers, the New Orleans Saints, or the Atlanta Falcons, and Dallas will probably beat them 50-0 in that game, but then that sets up a future matchup with another really tough team. I think the ideal way this series plays out, I think, would be something along the lines of Dallas having a first round matchup with like Atlanta, one of the NFC South teams, it really doesn't matter, and then round 2 having a matchup with the Detroit Lions, and then round 3 with the Philadelphia Eagles, because right now I think Dallas could beat Detroit because they have good run defense and that's really what their bread and butter is. So I think Dallas can beat Detroit again. That could be a pretty fun matchup, but I think with the way the Detroit Lions have been struggling lately and how the Dallas Cowboys have been playing, Dallas should be able to kind of do whatever they want offensively. Just kind of how they handle the run against the Detroit Lions will determine the outcome of that game. But assuming Dallas's run defense is sharp that game, I think they win that one pretty easily, honestly. So then you're really just hoping the Eagles will beat the San Francisco 49ers and hope that the seeding works out in that scenario. Because of the Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers, I just think the Cowboys match up way better against the Philadelphia Eagles. And even if the Eagles are the better team than the Niners, I generally think that Dallas stands a better chance against the better team in the Philadelphia Eagles than the San Francisco 49ers in that situation. Because Dallas has a ton of experience against the Philadelphia Eagles and they have a ton of success against that team as well. And again, they would already have 2 matchups in the regular season in which hypothetically, if the Dallas Cowboys were to win this upcoming one, they'd have a split, or even if the Eagles were to win both of them, at least they'd know what to expect. That's the best case scenario for the Dallas Cowboys. Do I think Dallas could beat San Francisco? Probably not, especially after how San Francisco just demolished the Seattle Seahawks. San Francisco 49ers just match up so oddly good against the Dallas Cowboys. It almost kind of feels like the 49ers were built to beat the Dallas Cowboys when obviously that's not the case. Because everything that Dallas is good at for some reason just doesn't work against the San Francisco 49ers. Dallas has a relatively good run defense and they for the most part shut out Christian McCaffrey in their game. But then in their man coverage scheme, they got kind of exposed by Brock Purdy. And then offensively, I'm still a little weary about how Dallas will perform against that good defense. But what I will say is that if there is any hope for Dallas Cowboys fans, is that in that game against the 49ers, they really weren't clicking. Not CeeDee Lamb, not Pollard, not Brandon Cooks, not Jake Ferguson. It really took until after that game for them to start clicking. And if these recent weeks are any indication of how Dallas will perform against the San Francisco 49ers, then things could get a lot more interesting. The problem then with that is that I don't think Dallas is really built for shootouts, because typically in shootouts, one turnover can kind of switch the game, and I think if you were to ask me who's going to have a turnover between Dallas and San Francisco, I think it's more likely that Dallas has a turnover. So I think against the 49ers or the Eagles, the Cowboys would definitely not want to be in a shootout. Dallas can win a shootout, don't get it twisted, but I think against a really good team that has good defense like the Eagles or the Niners, I think it doesn't go their way as often as they'd like. So to kind of round things out right now, I kind of just want to propose a couple questions to you guys. Do you guys think that Dallas is a legitimately good team? Because I think they are. Do you guys think that Dak Prescott can continue his level of success against really good teams? Because again, I think he can. And do you guys think the Dallas Cowboys could beat the San Francisco 49ers? And that, for me, is kind of where I draw the line on the Cowboys. Again, it's a really weird situation where it just feels like the 49ers just have their number. I even think if Dallas was the quote-unquote better team, I still feel like San Francisco would have success against them. But let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about the Dallas Cowboys. Do you guys think they could win the Super Bowl? Or do you guys think they're overrated? Or are they properly rated? And please, don't let your bias sway your opinion. Just be logical if you can in the comments and actually provide reasoning as to why you think that this player sucks or this team sucks. Don't just say, oh, Dak Prescott's an interception machine, which is obviously not true. But if you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button because it helps me out a ton. But I love you guys. Peace.